That sounds about right.
Holy shit!
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another marvelous video. This one's for all the Gears of War fans out there. Gears of War, or just Gears as most fans call it, is more than just a game series. It's best known for its intense third-person shooting games, but over the years it's grown into something much bigger with spin-off games, DC Comics, novels, and even a board game. It all started back in 2006 when the first Gears of War dropped on Xbox 360. Set in the war-torn world of Sera, the game dropped us right into the middle of humanity's battle against a brutal underground enemy, the Locust Horde, creatures that clawed their way up from the hollow. At the center of it all was our protagonist, Marcus Fenix. And that's who we're here to talk about today. So sit back and get comfortable because we're about to dive into the life of one of humanity's and the Xbox's greatest heroes. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Go! Watch out!
Origins. Childhood in a shattered world. Marcus Fenix was born 21 years before Emergence Day in the district of Tyrus on the planet Sera. From the outside, his life looked great. He was the son of Adam Fenix, one of the COG's top war scientists, and Dr. Elaine Fenix, a respected figure in her own right. But being born into prestige doesn't mean much when you're a kid who never quite fit in. Marcus was different. He bounced from school to school, never staying in one place for too long, and he barely had any real friends. The other kids kept their distance, not just because he was quiet, but because he came from money. Everyone knew who his dad was, and that kind of legacy puts a target on your back. He was bullied constantly, and for the longest time, he just took it. That is, until Carlos Santiago stepped in. Carlos didn't know Marcus all that well back then, but when he saw him getting cornered, he didn't hesitate. He took a hit for him, and that moment changed everything. From then on, Marcus and Carlos were basically glued at the hip. They became best friends, brothers really, and something else happened too. Marcus changed. He wasn't the same quiet, guarded kid when he was around the Santiagos. He laughed more, opened up, and actually felt like he belonged somewhere. Carlos's younger brother, Dom, also grew close to Marcus, and together, the three of them felt like a real family, maybe even more so than the one Marcus had back home. However, things started to spiral when his mother, Elaine, disappeared. Everything was fine, and suddenly one day she was gone, presumed dead. That loss hit Marcus really hard, way harder than he let on. Whatever connection he had with his father started to break away completely after that. Adam threw himself into his work, and Marcus drifted further away from that cold, empty mansion. The Santiagos, Carlos and Dom, didn't just have his back through this tough time, they actually took him in. When Marcus needed a home, they gave him one, and whether they realized it or not, they helped shape the man he was going to become. The Pendulum Wars. By the time Marcus was 21, the Pendulum Wars had been raging for over 7 decades. And instead of following the expected path through officer school, Marcus made a decision that surprised even his best friend. He enlisted as a regular infantry soldier. Carlos, who was already in uniform himself, tagged along when Marcus told his father. It didn't go well. He was furious. He saw Marcus's decision as a waste of potential, a rejection of everything he had built. But Marcus had already made up his mind. He didn't want to be a strategist in a lab, he wanted to fight. Adam turned to Carlos, hoping he would talk some sense into him. Carlos just promised to keep Marcus alive. A few days later, Marcus officially joined the ranks, proud to wear the COG uniform. After basic training, Marcus and Carlos were assigned to C Company, 26th Royal Tyran Infantry. Their first posting was the Akastu Emulsion Fields, defending the COG's precious energy resource. The deployment was rough. Major Stroud, a hardened vet and an old friend of Adam's, kept them grounded with the blunt reality that this wasn't training anymore. If they slipped up, people died. On patrol, a squad consisting of Marcus, Carlos, Maxon, and Quinn scanned the field, talking shop, trading jokes, and trying to normalize the nightmare. Carlos brought up a letter Marcus got from Adam, another attempt to steer him back to school, like this war was just a detour. Marcus shrugged it off. He was frustrated that his dad didn't get it, but things got serious fast. During a late-night patrol, the squad responded to reports of suspicious movement near the pipeline. It was an ambush, but Marcus charged into enemy fire with Carlos as his cover. Reinforcements arrived just in time, but it was already too late. The emulsion wells had been sabotaged, and Maxon didn't make it. Only a week later, it happened again. This time, he lost Quinn. Later, Major Stroud pulled Marcus into her office. She had seen what war did to people and what it did to his father, and she urged Marcus to call home. He did, and they both knew what it meant to lose people. Soon after, Marcus was deployed to Iroma Island, where he discovered a village devastated by the UIR. There, he encountered a survivor, Tai Kaliso, armed with a bow, shadowing him from the trees. Marcus didn't raise his weapon. Instead, he offered him a choice: join the Cog or watch another army destroy what was left of his home. Tai, with nothing left to lose, joined up. That was the beginning of their bond. A year into his service, Marcus had climbed the ranks to corporal. He was stationed at the Sarfuth-Mirande border, where sabotage threats kept everyone on edge. About 9 months after deployment, Marcus and C Company were transferred to Marinat Naval Base. The mission was unknown. They were told to train for a beach landing, and that was about it. One night, during a landing exercise, Carlos tripped coming out of the boat and fell hard into the water. Marcus didn't think, he just dove in and dragged him ashore. Carlos brushed it off, frustrated with himself, but Marcus could tell that something wasn't right. He kept coughing, and Marcus was worried, so he ordered him to see a medic, even though Carlos pushed back. Later that night, as they camped out in the woods, Marcus expected Carlos to chew him out for pulling rank, but it never came. They were debriefed by Major Stroud, who brought along her daughter, Anya, a new cadet. Marcus tried to pry into what the op actually was, but Stroud shut him down. Even she wasn't fully in the loop. A few days later, they moved to the Fesser Naval Base. Carlos tried to get in touch with Dom, but with Maria about to give birth and lockdown protocols in effect, all they could do was leave messages. Marcus told Carlos he would call his dad to say goodbye, but unsurprisingly, Adam barely reacted. Just before they set sail, Marcus spotted Adam in the crowd. It was a brief moment, small, but it stuck with him. He thought maybe his dad did care, or maybe he already knew exactly where Marcus was going. 2 hours into the journey, Stroud finally told them what they were walking into, and it was Operation Level. Their job was to keep UIR reinforcements from reaching Asfo Point, while a commando team, led by none other than Dom, went in to extract intel on a top-secret weapon, the Hammer of Dawn, something that could be used for targeted destruction. That's when it hit Marcus. His father had to be involved, and like always, he said nothing. It was chaos from the minute they arrived. Marcus and Carlos manned a machine gun post while forces closed in. When they spotted their enemies heading towards them in the ASPs, which were anti-air tanks heading toward Asfo Point, Marcus tried to take them out with a long spear launcher. He missed. Marcus and Carlos volunteered to deal with them, but Major Stroud went herself and paid the price for it. She managed to destroy one of the ASPs with grenades, but her gear got snagged and she was killed in the explosion. Marcus and Carlos regrouped with the others and set up to intercept the second ASP. They ambushed it with grenades, but one of the gunners survived. As it rolled towards the bridge, the others were killed. Carlos was hit, but managed to crawl into a ditch, and that's when Marcus hijacked an ASP and, for 10 minutes, turned the tide of the battle all by himself. When he finally stopped, he asked where Carlos was. To his horror, Carlos had stayed behind fighting. Marcus raced to him, but it was too late. Carlos was dying and didn't want to be saved. He didn't want Marcus to risk his life trying to drag him out. Instead, Carlos wanted him to end it, and Marcus refused. So, Carlos pulled his last grenade and blew the bridge, sacrificing himself to stop the enemies from coming. Marcus was shattered. Carlos wasn't just a friend, he was family. Bernie offered to tell Dom what happened, but Marcus said no. Weeks later, Marcus was promoted to sergeant, and he and Dom received the Embry Star for their actions at Asfo Fields. Carlos and Helena were awarded posthumously. After the ceremony, they visited Carlos's grave. Marcus dug a small hole and placed Carlos's medal inside, burying it with him. That night, Marcus joined Dom, Maria, and Anya for dinner at the Fenix house. It was awkward. Anya had a bit too much to drink, so Marcus made sure she got home safely. That night, they slept together, quietly beginning a relationship that they would have to keep a secret. Marcus, Dom, and the rest kept fighting. In Gato City, they held the line, securing intel that, according to Adam, saved him years of research. Still, the war dragged on. Dom began to wonder if Carlos had died for nothing. Marcus assured him that it wasn't in vain, and then 2 weeks later, it finally happened. It was announced that the UIR had agreed to peace talks after the COG used the Hammer of Dawn. Adam had done it, the war was ending, and just like that, the Pendulum Wars were over. It came at a huge cost for Marcus. Emergence Day, humanity's new nightmare. Peace didn't last long for humanity. They had just barely finished a war, but 6 weeks after the Pendulum Wars ended, a new enemy arrived, and they didn't come from another country or another continent. The ground cracked open, and out came the Locust Horde, tearing through cities. In just a day, they wiped out a quarter of the planet's population. That was Emergence Day. Marcus didn't hesitate. As soon as the cities went dark and the screaming started, he suited up and deployed. He and Dom were sent into the Kelowna district to protect civilians, and from there, it was just chaos again. During the fall of Halvo Bay, Marcus led a team to retake the airport. Their objective was to take down a Cedar, one of those massive locust creatures that jammed communications and brought everything to a halt. It was bloody and slow, and just when things were starting to fall apart, Kilo Squad launched the light mass missile and leveled the whole area. The museum, the Cedar, and the Locust were all gone. A little over a year into the war, and the situation had gotten so bad that COG authorized Hammer of Dawn strikes on their own cities. Their logic was that if they couldn't stop the Locust from taking their world, they would burn it down first. Marcus and his friends were recalled to Ephyra for evacuation, but instead of following their orders, they took a detour to help civilians escape in Janarmont, even retaking Voslov Bridge so thousands of people could get clear before the sky lit up. Marcus even gave up his seat to a mother with a baby. He stayed behind and kept fighting. That says everything about who Marcus really is, because the orders didn't matter to him, just the people. 9 years passed, and it went on like this. 9 years of endless bloodshed. Marcus was now in command of Bravo Squad, still fighting beside Dom. That's when they were sent to patrol the Cressy Escarpment, backing a team of engineers trying to block off Locust tunnels. But before they could finish the job, intel came through. Shenko Falls was under siege, and a team of sappers was about to be overrun. Marcus rushed in and tried to pull them out, but it was too late. Their leader, Captain Shaw, ended up falling into a pit filled with concrete. Marcus almost had him, but the harness slipped. Shaw sank beneath the cement and never came back up. Marcus blamed himself, even when everyone else told him it wasn't his fault. That's just who he was, which says a lot about his character. After that, he was ordered to take a few days off and reconnect with his father at Haldane Hall, and he did for a while. They had dinner, tried to talk, and Adam started to open up about his work, and Marcus, still angry from everything that had happened, told him not to bother. They both left the table with things that they should have said, and neither of them would get a second chance, because the Locust were coming for Ephyra. When the final push began, Marcus was already on the front lines. He and Bravo Squad helped hold off the first wave, using a gas explosion to collapse a Locust E-hole. Then, they got the call that Anya was trapped in the Bank of Tyrus, overrun by drones. You remember Anya, right? Marcus's somewhat love interest? Marcus led the rescue himself, and he stormed the building, fought through Reavers, and pulled Anya out. While they were evacuating to the roof, she got some news. Adam had contacted. He was still at Haldane Hall, and the Locust were on their way. Marcus wanted to go, but he had orders not to. They told him that the priority was the Chancery Bridge, where a Hammer of Dawn targeting laser needed to be delivered. The survival of the city was on the line, but Marcus didn't care. Not this time. He was going to get his father out no matter the cost. When they reached Haldane Hall, they found Adam. He was alive. They were almost out, and then they were ambushed by a Raven. They were basically mainly used for transportation, but also assaults. It crashed straight into the estate and buried Adam under the rubble. Marcus and Dom were knocked unconscious in the blast, and when they woke up, it was too late. The targeting laser had never made it to Chancery. The Locust had crossed the line. Full brigade was gone. The Jasinto Prison years. After defying direct orders and abandoning his mission to save his father, Marcus was court-martialed for cowardice and failure to follow command. The verdict was brutal. 40 years in Jasinto Maximum Security Prison, better known as the Slab. And honestly, he was lucky to even avoid execution. His record during the Pendulum Wars and a few quiet strings pulled by Chairman Prescott, the only reason he was still breathing. Dom testified for him, but it didn't change anything. Inside the Slab, he became prisoner B1116/87, shoved into cell block 38 with murderers and thieves. Anya and Dom tried to appeal the ruling, but the system wasn't listening. At first, Marcus kept his distance from everyone. He refused visitors, shut out the people he cared about, and convinced himself that he deserved the sentence. He saw it as a failure and believed he had to pay for it. But time changed things. He started earning respect, not just from the inmates, but from most of the guards too. All except one, Campbell, a man who hated Marcus. His son had been a gear and didn't make it back home, so he blamed Marcus for it. And one day, he cornered Marcus and another inmate, Reeve, and set a pair of attack dogs loose on them. Marcus fought them off, killing them both, but not before one tore into his face, leaving him with a scar he still carries. He stayed quiet and refused anything that might get him out early until Prescott showed up in person. The same man who had helped put him in there now told him he might one day get back into the fight. There was still something left to fight for. Prescott also made it clear to the guards that Marcus was not to be harmed. Anyone who crossed the line would be enlisted and end up on the front lines. Their new squad mates would be informed of exactly what they had done. Even after this, Marcus still didn't open Anya's letters, not until Reeve convinced him to. One of them had a photo of her waiting for him and a promise that she wasn't giving up on him. For a while, Marcus did what he could to survive. He even helped dig an escape tunnel, not to break free and start over, because he wanted back into the fight. He wanted to kill Locust. but the tunnel flooded and he nearly drowned. He started distancing himself again and wrote to Anya to say that she should move on. He didn't want her to waste her life on someone who might never leave his cell. Eventually, the prison fell into chaos when the Locust started breaching the lower levels. With the guards scattered and communications down, Marcus took charge. He rallied the inmates and guards, organized defenses, and turned the slab into a last stand. He and Reeve hunted down the breach, tracing it to a collapsed shaft, only to get cornered. Marcus told Reeve to lock himself up and wait it out. Instead, Reeve locked him in and tried to escape, and he never came back. When the area was considered to be too dangerous, Prescott and Hoffman gave the order to release the prisoners and enlist them, but no one knew where Marcus was, so Hoffman reluctantly left him behind. Dom, however, wasn't ready to do the same. With Hoffman's unofficial blessing, Dom suited up, grabbed extra armor, and broke into the slab. He found Marcus still alive, barely hanging on, and got him out of his cell just in time. Together, the two of them fought their way through the cell blocks. Dom gave Marcus a choice to either go back through the guards' quarters or charge through the Locust-infested prison block. Naturally, Marcus picked the fight. They cleared the prison, made it to the courtyard, and just in time, the King Raven support showed up. As they pushed through the last stretch, one Raven was shot down, but they made it. On board the Raven, Marcus was introduced to his new commanding officer, Lieutenant Min Young Kim, and a rookie named Anthony Carmine. Just like that, Marcus Fenix was back in uniform and became a part of Delta Squad. Delta Squad and the Light Mass Offensive. Delta Squad was immediately handed their orders after Marcus left the prison, and that was to track down a missing weapon known as the Sonic Resonator and locate Alpha Team, who were the last ones known to have it. These orders came straight from Colonel Victor Hoffman. While searching for Alpha, Delta ran into Augustus Cole, a former thrashball legend turned full-time gear. Cole had gotten separated from Alpha during a Locust attack, but when Anthony Carmine was killed in action, Cole joined Delta. Eventually, they did find Alpha Team trapped deep inside the Tomb of the Unknowns, but just when things were starting to look up, it all went wrong fast. The Locust ambushed them, and in the chaos, Lieutenant Kim was executed right in front of them. Delta had no choice but to fall back into the tomb. That's where they came face to face with a berserker, a huge blind creature used by the Locust for breeding. It was strong, fast, and nearly impossible to kill, so Marcus did the only thing he could and called in a Hammer of Dawn strike. After the dust settled, Marcus checked in with Hoffman, and due to how he handled the situation, he was promoted to sergeant, officially put in command of Delta Squad. Their next mission was to deliver the Sonic Resonator to the Lethia Emulsion Factory, a critical step in completing Project Lightmass, which was all about mapping the Locust tunnels under Sera. To get there, they stopped at a stranded outpost looking for transport, but the place was under siege. They helped fight off the Locust assault and then went towards the facility. Inside, they faced wave after wave of lambent wretches. Lambents were basically lifeforms that were infected and colonized by emulsion. Marcus and Dom fought their way to the cart control room, the only way down into the hollows where the real mission began. Time wasn't on their side. If they didn't finish before dawn, they would be overwhelmed. In the tunnels, things only got worse. They ran into a corpser, a gigantic spider-like creature that could rip through anything. With no other choice, they collapsed the platform beneath it, killing it with its own weight and the facility's wreckage. They then cleared out more Locust and finally planted the Resonator. They made it out just in time to avoid the shockwave, but there was a problem. The Sonic Resonator didn't work. It didn't map enough of the tunnels to launch the full-scale light mass attack. They thought they had failed until they found something unexpected, a data bot that had belonged to Marcus's father. Inside was the full mapping of the Locust network beneath Sera. Now they had a second chance, and it was all they needed. With that intel, Hoffman ordered the light mass bomb to be prepared for deployment. The target was the emulsion fields, which were the heart of the Locust stronghold, but to deliver it, they had to get to Tyro Station. The fastest way there was straight through Phoenix Estate, Marcus's childhood home, now crawling with Locust. Marcus and Dom made their way through what was left of the house he grew up in, made it to the station, linked up with Baird and Cole, and held the line until the Tyro Pillar, a massive train carrying the bomb, arrived. Only the two of them made it onto the train in time. Baird and Cole stayed behind to provide support from the air on a King Raven. The Raven swooped in just in time to extract them before the train reached the emulsion fields, and moments later, the light mass bomb detonated. The explosion lit up the sky, and as far as they knew, the Locust threat had been wiped out.
We need to stick to the mission. We have no idea if Maria's down here, and
I need to know. You don't have to go with me, all right?
Damn it! That's just gonna get us both killed. We need to get into the stronghold and activate the beacon.
The fall of Jasinto. Now, about 6 months after the light mass bomb lit up the emulsion fields, it it became clear that the Locusts were not gone. If anything, they were more determined than ever. The bomb didn't end the war, it just made the Locusts dig in deeper. Marcus and Dom were sent to Jasinto Hospital to clear out a Locust infestation. That's where Marcus met Benjamin Carmine, the younger brother of Anthony Carmine, the rookie who had died back at the tomb. Ben was eager, maybe too eager, and Marcus, who had seen too many fresh faces not come home, took a moment to show him the ropes before they kicked things off. With Dom, Ben, and Ty Caliso, Marcus had a new Delta squad. They cleared the hospital and barely had time to catch their breath before being redirected to the front lines once more. The next big move was a full-scale assault on Landam, a city sitting on top of a major Locust tunnel system. The plan was to drill straight into the hollows using massive transport rigs called assault derricks. Delta hitched a ride with Dizzy Wallen and pushed toward the drill site, but the Locusts weren't going to let them walk in. The convoy was hit hard by an aerial assault led by Scourge, a high priest of the Locust, the Queen's personal enforcer. He tore through their forces, and while Dizzy and Ty held him off, Marcus and Dom managed to reach the grind lifts. Down in the hollows, things got worse. They saved Ben from a Locust ambush, pushed deeper in, and then saw something no one was ready for, which was the rift. This was literally a city-eating monster. It had already swallowed Ilima whole. It just keeps getting worse and worse for these guys, right? Well, the ground beneath humanity's last strongholds was being devoured by a creature the size of a mountain. Delta watched Ilima crumble, and then they went into the ruins to look for survivors. That's where they reunited with Cole, who had saved them during an ambush, and together they tracked down Baird and captured. They stormed a Locust prison transport and found him, but they also found Ty, or at least what was left of him. He had been tortured to the point of breaking, and when Marcus handed him a weapon to defend himself, Ty used it to end his own life. Before they could process that loss, a raven came to extract them and was swallowed whole by the rift. Now the squad was all trapped inside the belly of the beast. Carmine, still so new to it all, didn't make it. He was mauled alive by the parasites crawling inside the worm. Marcus and the others had to literally cut their way through its guts, slicing through its 3 hearts to kill it from the inside. When the worm finally collapsed, they clawed their way out. Then they made their way to Mount Kadar, heading for the Nexus Highway, a Locust stronghold that was hidden deep beneath the surface. And this wasn't just another mission for Dom. He was desperate. He begged Marcus to help him find Maria, his wife, who had gone missing during the first attacks on E-Day. Against all odds, they found her, but it wasn't a happy ending. Maria was still alive, technically, but to the point of no return. After all the starvation and torture, she was gone. And in the most painful moment of Dom's life, he pulled the trigger himself to give her peace. Inside Nexus, Delta regrouped with Cole and Baird and pushed forward, eventually breaking into the Locust Palace to confront the leader behind it all, Queen Myra. But she escaped before Marcus could get to her, and Delta had to face Scourge one more time. The fight ended with Marcus disabling Scourge's Reaver and sending the Locust Priest crashing into the trees below. By the time they got back to Jacinto, the last true city still standing, Marcus had figured out what needed to be done. He met with Hoffman and Prescott and laid it out. The only way to stop the Locust for good was to sink Jacinto itself. It was the only city left that hadn't been eaten from below, and its collapse would flood the entire hollow system. It was a plan Marcus had learned about from a recording left by his father, Adam, a backup plan no one wanted to use. There were no better options. With time running out, Marcus mounted a creature, Brumac, and led the charge into the underground. The light mass bomb was lost during the chaos, but something else had changed. The Brumac, now corrupted by emulsion, turned into a lambent monster, unstable and volatile. So, Marcus used it. They detonated the lambent Brumac underneath Jacinto, unleashing a massive explosion that brought the entire city down, flooding the hollows and burying the Locust with it. And Jacinto was gone. This wasn't a victory. It came at a cost that no one would ever forget.
Everybody down! She's gonna blow!
Gears of War 3, The Final Stand. Now we cut to 18 months after Jacinto sank beneath the waves. The cog is gone, the cities are in ruins, and the world is pretty much shattered. Marcus and what's left of Delta Squad are stationed on the CNV Sovereign, part of a rapid reaction force trying to hold the line. But peace is something that's long gone. The Lambent have become the real enemy, and now they're resurfacing fast. Out of nowhere, Marcus hears that Chairman Prescott, the guy who bailed on everyone, is not only alive but coming back. But before any answers can be given, a lambent leviathan rises up from the sea and attacks the Sovereign. Delta barely survives, blowing up their own ship just to kill the damn. Marcus finally corners Prescott when they're stranded on the shore, only to find him dying, and he has a final revelation. Adam is alive, and he's being held as a prisoner by Queen Myra. After helping Hoffman fight off a massive lambent siege, including a lambent berserker, they learn about a hidden island called Azura sealed off by an artificial hurricane and loaded with secrets. To get there undetected, they needed a submarine, and to power it, they needed fuel. That led them to Mercy, a ghost town now ruled by a bitter ex-tycoon named Aaron Griffin. Griffin agrees to help, but only if Marcus does the dirty work and retrieves the fuel himself. They head to the naval shipyards to grab the fuel, but the mission goes sideways when they're ambushed by savage Locust, remnants of the old army, more brutal than ever. In the chaos, Dom sacrifices himself, slamming a truck into a fuel depot and taking the Locust with him. That loss breaks something in Marcus. When he confronts Griffin afterwards, he loses it and forces him to hand over the fuel. No more deals, no more diplomacy. Once on the island, guided by his father's voice, Marcus deactivates the Maelstrom barrier, clearing the way for Baird and Cole's assault team. Together, they reunite and fight their way through Azura to rescue Adam. Finally, explains everything. Adam had known about the Locust and Queen Myra years before Emergence Day. He'd been working on a weapon, something that could wipe out both the Lambent and Locust by targeting Emulsion itself. Turns out Emulsion wasn't just fuel, it was a living parasitic organism, one that was slowly killing the planet. The weapon would stop it, but at a price. As they make their way to activate the device, Queen Myra intercepts them, riding her massive flying beast, the Tempest. Marcus takes it down using the Hammer of Dawn, finally knocking her from the sky. But before the weapon fires, Adam tells Marcus the truth. He had been exposed to Emulsion for too long. When the device activates, he wouldn't survive. There was no time to argue. The weapon activated, and across the world, every Lambent and every Locust was wiped out. Again, this doesn't feel like a victory.
That sounds about right.
Holy shit!
Marcus in the post-war era. After the Locust War and the Lambent pandemic finally came to an end, everything changed. The Locust, now crystallized and cocooned thanks to Adam's weapon, had to be buried, and Marcus was there for that too. It was the last job left to do. He then got married to Anya Stroud, who became the first prime minister of the newly rebuilt coalition of ordered governments. They started piecing the world back together. But Marcus moved out to the Stroud family estate, far from the politics and shiny promises. He said it was to live quietly, but truthfully, he just didn't trust the new cog. And honestly, after what he had seen the old one do, can you really blame him? While rebuilding the world, Anya helped launch the fertility program, a scientific effort to reverse the global infertility crisis. She went through the procedure herself and gave birth to a son, James Dominic Fenix, named in honor of Dom. It was Marcus's way of keeping his brother's memory alive. JD was sent off to boarding school where he met Del Walker, an orphan who quickly became like family. When Anya decided to undergo another round of treatment, something went wrong and she didn't survive. Just like that, she was gone. After that, Marcus changed. He didn't connect with JD the way he should have, not because he didn't care, but because of his grief. JD, feeling abandoned, started to drift too. So, when JD told Marcus that he and Del were joining the COG military, Marcus lost it. He disowned his own son, warning him that the COG was not what he thought it was. Gears of War 4 and 5, Legacy and the New Generation. Gears of War 4 and 5 focuses more on the new generation. So, 25 years after the war, not everyone is on board with how the new COG is running things. JD Fenix and Del Walker have gone rogue. They have left the COG behind, rejecting Jin's hardline control, and joined a group of outsiders led by Reyna Diaz. Along with Reyna's daughter, Kate, and her uncle Oscar, the squad raids a COG site to steal a fabricator, a machine that could power and defend their village. They barely make it out, but things spiral. They're accused of kidnapping civilians, and a full-scale attack is launched on the village. JD and the crew manage to hold the forces off, but that's when the real threat shows up. Strange new creatures. They capture everyone, and before she's taken, Reyna locks JD, Kate, and Del in the generator room to keep them safe. With no one left to turn to, JD swallows his pride and asks Marcus for help. Marcus isn't thrilled. He's still bitter over JD joining and then deserting the COG. He almost refuses until he realizes the enemy isn't human. He takes them to Fort Revel, where thousands of Locusts were once buried, and that's where things get even worse. The group is ambushed by a snatcher that drags Marcus off. JD and the others chase it down and start putting the pieces together. The swarm they're fighting isn't some new enemy, it's what the Locusts have become. The Emulsion countermeasure didn't kill them, it mutated them. For 25 years, they've been evolving underground. Marcus confirms it all after they rescue him. He was connected to their hive mind during his capture, and Reyna is still alive, barely. They track her to a place called Tolan Dam, which has become a massive swarm hive. They fight through waves of enemies and take out a leader called the Speaker and get nothing on Reyna's condition. Marcus radios for backup, and Cole, Baird, and Sam answer the call. Baird, now a tech mogul, shows up with mech suits. Using the mechs, JD and Kate push into the hive. There, they find Reyna, but she's been fused into the network itself. Killing her is the only way to set her free. Kate does what her mother asks. She puts her out of her misery and takes her amulet, a family heirloom. But there's something off about it. The symbol on it is the mark of Queen Myra, implying that Kate might be the granddaughter of the Locust Queen, and Oscar is still alive out there somewhere. From here on, it's more of Kate and the newer generation's journey than it is Marcus's. Marvelous verdict! And with that, we've come to the end of yet another marvelous video. Marcus is a character who's surely been through a lot. Just when it starts to look like things are going well for him, something always comes up. His character's storyline in the game is surely an interesting. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you guys think about Marcus Fenix? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.